Specialized has a new road race bike, the Tarmac SL9, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about how it's faster and lighter and it's so good and it will basically pedal itself. But right now it's a very interesting time if you're actually looking to buy into the Specialized Tarmac Club, because the old bike, the SL8, can be had at a pretty significant discount. So instead of the usual first look video, I thought I'd actually ride both bikes and compare them, because then we can directly test loads of the features and see which is better. Now, speaking of the claims, I think we should start there, because this is Specialized, and obviously the marketing department, well, they've had quite a bit of fun.
The headline here is that Specialized is claiming the SL9 is 4 watts faster than the SL8. But Spec is going big on kind of time to finish this year, something that they also focused on with their Crux launch. They're doing this to follow the trend of like F1, where the cars are optimized for each circuit. Now, what Specialized is doing here, they say, is optimizing their bike for what they have defined as kind of key sections of big races. Basically, with the SL9, they're saying that all things being equal, Demi Vollering would have won the 2024 Tour de France Femme by 10 seconds if she'd have been on the SL9. She ended up losing that race by 4 seconds to Kasia Niewiadoma, despite clawing back over a minute on the final stage to Outdoors with an audacious 80-kilometer solo attack. It was a fantastic race, one of the best Tour de France races I've watched in years. If the theory works in practice, then that's a massive difference, though I would question whether saving 14 seconds over a mountainous 80 kilometers is genuinely possible, as that time would have to be saved everywhere. Like in the corners and down the descents, where Vollering might have already been going as fast as she could. And in the press release, Spec has gone through some more race situations and suggested how much faster the SL9 is compared to key rivals. So we've got Pogacar's Y1 RS, Wiesma's Cervelo S5, and for some reason the Factor 1, probably because it's just like a full-on aero bike. And shock and horror, the SL9 was fastest in all of these scenarios. Funny that, isn't it? But all of these scenarios, they feature quite a bit of climbing. And I think it's a shame that we don't have a flat profile, maybe mimicking a Tour de France sprint finale. I suspect that if you were looking at a flat profile, the gap might narrow, or say the Factor or the Colnago might be fastest. I would imagine Specialized doesn't want to show that because maybe it just doesn't look good for optics. But for transparency, I would have loved to have seen it.
Now, one thing that I loved from the white paper that they've written for this bike is a quote, and it goes, "By studying riders in real races, we identified behaviors that fundamentally shift aerodynamic performance. One example is that riders in most breakaways carry only one bottle, not two. This significantly changes airflow around the seat tube and rear triangle compared to traditional setups that assume 2 bottles and 2 cages." So they've redesigned the entire rear triangle based on 1 bottle. While we're on the subject of bottles, you can see round bottles here. They haven't developed aero bottle cages for this bike, or aero bottles, and I asked them about it. Basically, they said that when they were testing with a dynamic mannequin, well, they just didn't see enough of a difference to justify it. They said they did see a difference when they were testing the bike in isolation, but once you get those legs spinning, the air gets a bit messy. I'm not sure how much I believe it, because they also told me that the teams basically would have to have new bottles, a whole new way of working, and obviously that creates some issues. So I suspect that it's a bit of a small saving when the legs are moving, but also you've really got to consider that the teams might be influencing this as well. Before we do some ride impressions, I want to just do quickly touching on 2 smaller tech changes. Front end here's got 4 millimeters narrower, and what that's done is actually caused a bit of an issue with the cable routing in here. And what they've done to solve that is that they've actually done a crooked steerer tube, which looks all sorts of funny, and then your cables route down the side. I'm sure you can create your own memes about that. And then the seat post, that's got a little bit deeper just in here. And we will have to see whether that's going to affect the comfort. There's a dog over there, and that's why I lost my way. If you are coming from the SL8 to this bike, then you really won't be feeling much of a difference in terms of the handling, because Specialized, well, they haven't changed anything, like literally nothing across most of the sizes. And that's because the pros said, please do not change anything about the geometry. They apparently quite liked it. They also liked the ride characteristics, so the comfort and everything. So you really won't be finding much of a difference apart from on this one. This is the size 54. That's the one that I ride. And here you'll find just a little bit more space at the front end to eliminate some of the toe overlap. Now on the climbs, this feels exactly like the SL8. It's just no difference. And so much faster, so much faster. In terms of which is better, this versus the SL8, I think if you are a professional or really good kind of mid-level, maybe upper level kind of group rider, you're gonna love this. I think it's great to see that Specialized has done the new bars, well, not the new bars, but the new bar sizes to suit more people that like to tuck down at the front and get aero. But also, we've got to remember that 4 watts, you know, these are marginal savings, which are mere mortals. I mean, I don't think I'll feel them on a ride. I think the fairest thing to say about this bike is that there is not, you know, a real tangible difference between the SL9 and the SL8. So if you've got the SL8, you're only going to be really upgrading for kind of the look of having the new bike, or maybe you just prefer the, you know, the look of this front end. But if you are coming from the SL7, I think you would feel quite a good bit of difference. It's certainly got the comfort that I really liked when we stepped up from the SL7 to the SL8. So there will be a tangible benefit if you're coming from the SL7 to the SL9. I'm in a breakaway Specialized. I've got 1 bottle cage on. Oh my God, I'm fast.
In a word, yeah, the Tarmac SL9 is a pretty lightweight bike. We weighed our 54 centimeter test bike, and as you can see, without pedals, it dips under the UCI's limit. So there's actually been a 2 gram frame weight increase, but with the additional carbon going to the front end and the seat tube and the seat post, I wouldn't say that's too much of a bad thing. Specialized is claiming to have some 6.5 kilo builds here, but I believe these come with the Alpinist wheels and cockpit. So you can have a pretty lightweight build, and I would imagine that loads of you back at home, if you get this bike, you could make it so much lighter if you wanted to. You will have to spend quite a bit of money though.
Okay, we're going to finish with price because I think this actually represents a pretty big decision right now if you're looking to buy this bike when the video comes out. This bike, the S-Works SL9, is going to be £11,999, or in dollars, that's going to be $14,000 for access or £13,500 for Di2. That is £500 more than the old bike, the SL8. And we saw that price rise with the Crux as well. And if I'm honest, I feel maybe just a little bit shortchanged with this bike in terms of the actual kind of new stuff that we see, the practical real world benefits that we're seeing with this new bike. With the Crux, you got the increased tire clearance, you got all of that new aero, you got the new wheels, you got the new front end, the cables have gone inside the frame. That feels, it's still an expensive bike, but it feels like a decent amount of tech for your 500 quid extra. Here, well, what you're getting are some sensible changes, but they're going to cause, you know, pretty minor speed increases, especially for me and you riding at our mere mortal speeds. I think it's also worth pointing out that the current SL8, well, that's now under 10 grand because they're trying to get rid of those bikes. So let's wrap up by me saying which one I would go for, SL8 or SL9. And really, I think it more depends on which bike you're coming from. If you're coming from the Tarmac family already and you have, say, an SL7, this would be a great upgrade. It really, really would. It would add quite a bit of comfort. If you're coming from an SL8 though, I'm not sure you're going to see a ton of improvement, especially not for the money associated with getting one of these. In fact, the only reason that I would get one of these over the SL8 is this nice aesthetic change that they've made up here. Maybe this is far too much money for you, and I don't blame you. We've got some videos for you. There is a sub £2,000 buyer's guide right up here. Some primo bikes in there for not much money. And then down here is Specialized Tarmac SL8, the cheapest one any good. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.